The Belgium hockey team secured 14 penalty corners against India, with 3 of them resulting in goals. India secured 5 penalty corners in the match and converted only one of them into a goal. Sports commentator and analyst V. Krishnaswamy explains the importance and strategies evolving around the penalty corner.
It is important to decode the very concept of penalty corners. In field hockey, a penalty corner is also sometimes known as a short corner, and it is also called sometimes as a set piece in among when hockey players are discussing it. It is usually a penalty given against the defending team. It is predominantly awarded for a defensive infringement in the penalty circle. You would often see a circle which is there in front of the goal. It's also called as a 25-yard circle. And when an infringement happens inside that, and the referee avers that the attacking team had a very good chance of scoring, and the defensive team had actually made an illegal move and had infringed, and hence awards a penalty corner. The importance of penalty corners, has often been taken advantage of by attacking teams and teams which are physical. They often play to get a penalty corner and then try to convert the set piece with through some stinging shots or variations, etc. So the proportion of field goals, which is actually the beauty of hockey, started coming down, and attackers started trying to create a foul inside the 25-yard circle to try and get a penalty corner, and through that they had their specialists scoring a goal. So penalty corners became all the more important as modern hockey, as more physical hockey came into the picture. Essentially, the drag flick involves an action where a player is crouching low next to the ball and picks it up on the shaft of the stick. The ball is then pushed along the ground while the stick is also moving in a kind of a slinging action. It's like, it's a sling that you create. And this serves to accelerate the ball, which is eventually released in the direction of the goal. Often the ball is raised a little bit above the ground. Drag flicks are usually common during penalty corners and are used as a variant to the straight shot which is hit into the goal during a penalty corner. The main difference between a drag flick and a hit is that the drag flick is classified in the rules of hockey as a push, which is allowed to be raised higher than the penalty corner shot, which used to be in vogue before that. This has actually also led to a controversy, as drag flicks, although being allowed to be lifted at goals and consequently at the defenders who are standing inside the goal, they are often very powerful, much powerful than the hit, and this could actually be a danger and risk injuries to the defenders. Often you would see when a drag flick hits a player, there is a lot of agony despite all the gear that they are wearing, knee pads or even chest pads and things like that, and the helmets. So that is a bit of a controversy over drag flicks, but then it is seen by the rules as a push and not a dangerous hit. So that is what So drag flicks became more popular when it came to taking penalty corners. It was first seen in the Netherlands in around the 1980s, and this was preferred to the old scoop or the flick. The difference in being a simple flick is for a drag. The differentiation to a simple click is that for a drag flicking player, the ball is accelerated from behind, leveraging it past his body, and thus achieving a greater speed and giving the goalkeeper and the defenders a less chance to stop it. So that is why the drag flick became popular. It became also dangerous for the players, and it also overtook the old fashioned scoops or flicks, which had to be, which had to go raise the ball, which was a little more benign than these dangerous drag flicks. Now, what has happened is with each successive change and say an innovation, there also happens, like it's like a cat and mouse story. When players devise a way to beat the defense also keeps up coming up with something else. What the drag flick led to was tremendous amount of gear being worn by players. You could see the players, the defenders, look like spacemen. With all kinds of protective stuff, their helmets, their knee pads. The pads anyway are big. They would have thick gloves. Then they would even have shoulder pads, etc. So it really is. So the gear became very protective. So what the track flickers and the attacking team started doing is they started creating variations. So when the ball was stopped on the top of the goal line, instead of the drag flicker taking a direct hit or a flick, and then accelerating and hitting the ball, in which case the goalkeeper would lie flat and stop the ball, and the defenders would also be there. What they started doing was to take the attention away. They would create a variation, stop the ball, and pass it to another player who was on the side. And that player would then flick the ball over or take a shot, much like the drag flick itself. So these variations actually led to what I could say a new innovation of sorts. One of the biggest players of exponents of this was an Argentine called Gonzalo Pelat, who used to score goal after this. So, so as they say, for every innovation, there is an innovation by the defense team, and then the attacking team comes up with another innovation. Just mentioned Argentina's Gonzalo Pelat was considered to be one of the biggest exponents of the drag flick. He was considered as the best guy in the world, say about 4 or 5 or 6 years ago. And then, Australia had a player called Chris Ciriello, who was also, after his retirement, India hired him as a coach. And he used to try and teach the Indian players the art of drag flicking in 2014. Pakistan had the legendary Sohail Abbas, whose drag flicks were completely, unstoppable. India has also had its great exponents like Sandeep Singh, who unfortunately had an accident and had to give up hockey. Otherwise, at one point of time, he was considered to be one of the fastest hitter or the fastest drag flicker in the world. The others included V.R. Raghunath, and the current team has Rupinder Pal Singh, who's pretty good, and there is young Harmanpreet Singh, who's also coming up as a very good drag flick exponent. But in these games, I mean, we have an absolute sensation called Alexander Hendricks of Belgium, who displayed his prowess against India in the semi-final. Now, Alexander Hendricks is not very old, about 25 or 26, and he has been at the in the Belgian team for a while, and he is actually one of the reasons why Belgium has actually gone up very fast up in the world rankings. He was the highest goal scorer in 2018 when the World Cup was held in India in Bhubaneswar in Odisha, and now here in Tokyo, he has scored as many as 14 goals, which is just simply phenomenal and unbelievable at a single Olympics. The track flick needs to be not only fast, but also the acceleration has to be tremendous. India has had two good in the current side. We've had two players, Rupinder Pal Singh and Harmanpreet. They have a pretty decent record. Harmanpreet has actually scored 5 goals in this game, which is quite high. But the frequency with which we are scoring is far less than, say, a team like Belgium. And our field goal conversion is also a little less. So I would say, in terms of what has happened to us, is that we are not able to create variations, whereas Belgians are able to create variations and give a better chance. Instead of taking a direct hit straight into the goal, they're able to take it sometimes to the side. So there is an element of surprise which our boys were not able to create and are still working on it. So, which is one of the reasons why the Belgians are doing extremely well over the last few years is they've created a whole set of variations, which is obviously a secret that the coach would refuse to share with anyone else. But I'm sure other coaches will be catching up on it very soon. So I would say the key is not only to have a great track flicker, but also one who thinks and creates variations and creates more opportunities to ensure that the ball enters the net, and it does it so legally and get a goal onto his side.
The Indian hockey team clearly needs to take its penalty corner skills a few notches higher to win big events like the Olympics. In Chennai, Nisha PS for the Federal.